Good morning. This is Faith at Faith and Books. I'm going to try and speak up, but it's very early in the morning. Usually I'm out on the porch, but it is so dark and rainy out. The lighting is not good, so I'm inside. And everyone's asleep. So I'm going to try to speak up. I have a tendency to whisper without even realizing that I'm doing that. Today I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to do another unboxing because I got in the supplies that I had ordered the other day. And the other thing I'm going to do is talk about the first way that I learned to channel my curriculum consumption anxiety into more constructive channels. And the first thing that came to mind was book buying, or not necessarily buying books, but searching out books, getting interested in researching books, reading book lists, learning more about what's out there that I could read out loud to my children, or would feed me and strengthen me in my vocation as a homeschooling mother. So I think I'll do the books first and then the unboxing last. For me, reading out loud, it's probably the same with you, it was just sort of a center of our homeschooling life. And it was very organic. I started out reading board books to my little ones, and then picture books, and then it just continued from there. So we were always reading out loud. And it was a very joyful aspect of parenting for me. And it was also joyful to see my husband reading to the kids, because he really read a lot as well. And he had been a late reader. He didn't learn to read till he was 8. And he remembers his mother having to go into the teachers and having a parent-teacher meeting, and their concern about him. And she really thought he was going to get it eventually, so they never did anything special. This was, back in the day, special ed wasn't such a big thing yet. And so he did learn to read. He remembers his mother reading him Dr. Seuss books at home, but that's all he remembers. He didn't really read on his own until high school, when he got intrigued by science fiction through Star Trek. So he read those Star Trek books, and then he went on to read Heinlein and Asimov and, Dune and those things. So in high school, he was interested in reading, but when he got to college, it kind of waned, and he was more into reading nonfiction because he was studying. He was a double major, economics and business and finance. So he started reading nonfiction stuff more than fiction. And then, adulthood took over, and he just didn't read until he married me. And within the first couple of years of our marriage, my father lent him, somehow it came out of a conversation, lent him the Hornblower books. Where are they? We have the set somewhere up there. I don't know where it is. But, and so he read those. Those were like the first novels he had read in years. He really enjoyed them, and it was wonderful to watch because it led him down this rabbit trail where he studied naval history, both British and American. He became a real expert on the War of 1812. He got really into it. For years, he was on this tangent as a result of reading those books. So that was wonderful to see, but also it was wonderful to see him enjoying reading all this children's literature that he had missed growing up because he hadn't been a reader, and he got to read them aloud to our own children. So that was a really, really lovely aspect of family life and reading. And so it really was the crux of our homeschools, a major way that we taught our children. And so it was very natural. And so even at our unschooliest, I was always reading out loud, and I read aloud to my kids through high school, basically, although the younger two were less amenable to it. The older ones enjoyed it more. It was just the way things fell out for the younger two, but I did read through high school. So reading out loud was the big thing, and what I learned to do was, instead of, kind of the reading aloud having to go along or be prescribed by whatever curriculum, like you say sunlight, if you wanted to try something like sunlight, they would send you books you were going to read, and they would even tell you to what page to read and then what comprehension questions to ask and that sort of thing. We never could follow any sort of schedule like that tightly. It felt very cramping, but we would just, I would pull from Sunlight's list, and I really enjoyed investigating all the different curriculums that were more literature based, and pulling from them the books that really appealed to us or would tie in with something we were interested in, or just to have titles and names of authors in the back of my head so that I could recognize them when I went to the library or a used books sale or something like that. And I could say, oh yeah, I've heard of this book, and oh, that might be a good one to read. I was thinking about that. So it was fun to research books and find all these different book lists, and we accumulated a lot of books. We moved into this house halfway through our homeschool career, and this was already here. This library was already here because the guy worked from home, and this was his office, and he'd put in these really nice bookcases, which was one of the major selling points of the house for me. So anyway, so I just thought I would go through really briefly some resources for books. And you can what we did was we would have sort of loose themes, either because a kid was interested or because I thought it was a topic we should address, or I don't know, it just somehow we would come up with these books. Sometimes I would have like 3 different streams going. There would be one on religion, one on history, or some sort of content subject. Like to me, the content subjects were history, geography, science, that sort of thing, civics. And then religion was a content subject too, but it was often in its own, kind of vein. And then there would be literature. And sometimes those would all be combined, and sometimes it would be 3 separate streams. I couldn't keep too many books in the air at the same time. Like I really didn't like the Sunlight or Charlotte Mason, the sort of stricter Charlotte Mason approach where you only read little snippets. And you read lots and lots of books. That was kind of hard. So we would have between maybe 3 and 5 books going at one time, and that was the most we could take. And sometimes we would just have 1. That was pretty rare. Or 2, I think 3 was the most common number of books that we had going. And I would read aloud over breakfast and lunch, and then literature was usually in the evening. So that's how we did things. And it was really fun researching books. I enjoyed it, and I love books. I inherited a lot of books from my grandparents and my aunt and my parents, and I've accumulated a lot. And so I just thought I'd go through resources, and I've written them up on my laptop here. Oh no, my laptop went dead. Come on. Oh, a second. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh no, I have to hold on. Okay, here we go. So here are some of the resources that I really like. Well, first of all, the library is a great thing, and that's inexpensive. If you manage to get them back on time, you don't have to worry about fines. But so get to know your local library, get to know library loans, that sort of thing. Cultivate a relationship with your librarian so that you can look for books on particular topics. Also, you can trade books with other homeschoolers. Here we have a homeschool library at one of the parishes nearby that one of the moms set up, and so we could go in there occasionally. I did go in there. Mostly I used it to dump the curriculum I had bought that we'd never used, but sometimes I would go in and just get books to read. So that was neat. Or you can just, they have those little libraries now where you can go and trade books at these little cute little libraries people put in their yards. I don't know if you do that where I've never actually done it. I've seen them, but I've never done it. But anyway, I was just thinking of free, you can borrow from other homeschoolers. And you might have better ideas than I do on how to get books. And then I'll just talk about a few things. My favorite thing to do when I would go to a homeschool conference, and I didn't go to very many, but there used to be one nearby, Immaculate Heart of Mary, and it's not nearby anymore. It stopped being nearby several years ago. But I would just go one Friday afternoon and I would visit Keller Books. Keller Books, and I'll link below. It's a Catholic used bookstore run by this family. It's really lovely, and it's got tons and tons of vintage Catholic books, so it's really good. I love that one. And then, of course, there are ones that you probably know about. Let me see. For other used books, there's the Little Living Books shop, which is on Instagram, and they like bundle picture books together. That never gotten from them, but I've just noticed them. The Book Bundler, they do the same thing. They bundle together books of a certain theme, and you buy them all together, and they're used books. Online booksellers that I really liked, Hillside Education. These are small Catholic publishers that kind of cater to a homeschool audience or market. Dover Books, we got a lot of books from Dover Books. Sophia Institute has some great books, Catholic books. Ignatius Press has some good ones. Bethlehem Books, boy, that was so wonderful when Bethlehem Books came on the horizon. What a gift to Catholic homeschoolers. There's something that used to be called Main Lesson or the Baldwin Project, and now it seems to be called Gateway to the Classics, and you sort of have to join them, and then you can get a lot of ebooks from them, and they have these old classics that it's hard to find now. There's something called Heritage History, which kind of focuses on Catholic history, and a lot of it's using vintage books, Usborne books, Barefoot books. They're kind of, more modern, but you can find some really lovely books there if you sort of have to be discerning. There's something called the Family Bookshelf blog, which is a young Catholic woman just reading and reviewing books for children from a Catholic perspective. There's Mater Amabilis, which is the Charlotte Mason Catholic program that's free online that has a lot of books listed. And then there's this, where is it? This is a great book by Maureen Whitman, who started Homeschool Connections for the Love of Literature. This is a wonderful resource, a book list from a Catholic perspective. Really, really great resource. I highly recommend it. So, and then don't forget audiobooks. We listen to so many audiobooks. Jim Weiss, we got them out of the library. We got them for Christmas. Of course, people use Audible. I don't have to say anything more about that. There's LibriVox, which is volunteers, so it's free. You might not like all the readers. I'm okay with most of them, because frankly, sometimes the readers, on Audible, I don't really care for. And it's free, so that sort of makes up for it. My youngest daughter really loved Glory Stories. That was our audio stories of the saints. There's a website called Learn Out Loud that has a lot of free resources, audio resources. And then, of course, videos. Towards the end of my homeschooling career, we did a thing at breakfast. After I would read aloud, we would watch some sort of short YouTube video. We did it with the Elements. So you can find really great short videos that are educational to watch together as a family. What else? Of course, there's Netflix and all that stuff. You can find documentaries and series and stuff. And then the Teaching Company or the Great Courses, we used a lot of those. That was, videos, the lectures in high school. So those were just some of the things that I really enjoyed researching, and I put my time and energy into, culling through lists and that sort of thing. And it was really fun, and it was a really good diversion from focusing too much on curriculum buying. So now let me do my unboxing, because it's already 14 minutes. I can't believe it. But here is some of my stuff, and I opened the box, but I didn't really go through what I got. So this is for the 4-year-olds pre-K. I bought these because my art supplies and school supplies are really in a bad state right now. I have lots of old stuff that I kind of just need to get rid of. Let's see. First thing I did was I bought him this thick yarn. This was all from A Child's Dream, which is kind of a Waldorf resource. But I wanted this thick stuff because I was trying to teach him finger knitting, and the string that we'd actually gotten from Simply Charlotte Mason was too thin. And so I decided to get this thicker, and red is his favorite color. So, but I didn't realize it was so much yarn. So that's a lot of finger knitting there. So I don't know what we'll use this for, but we have a lot of really nice thick red yarn. Let's see. And then the same thing, I'm trying to, where did it go? I'm trying to get him to do more with his fingers because he's really resistant to writing. And just like my kids were, I don't know, it must be in this house or something. But they have this knitting tower thing. I don't know how to use it, but apparently you use this thing to knit. So I'm going to figure that out and see if he'd be interested in that. I was just thinking in the winter we'll focus on weaving and knitting and that sort of thing, just to get him dexterous with his fingers. So that was something neat, knitting tower. So we'll see how that goes. Then I'm going to really focus on celebrating the liturgical year. I'm going to do both Jewish and Catholic because my husband is Jewish. So we do both holidays, though as the kids have gotten older, I've less emphasis on it. But this year, since COVID and we're stuck at home, I decided I'm just going to really do things up. And I noticed at Waldorf, at this Waldorf site, the Waldorf education is a blend of Catholic and Eastern religions. So the Catholic Church doesn't really approve of you doing Waldorf, but you can adopt aspects of it that don't, that can really complement actually Catholicism because it is a blend. It took saints' days and feast days. But this is one of the things that they had. It was an Advent candle, and I guess it burns. It takes 24 days to burn, so it goes from 1 to 24. So it's like an Advent calendar, but it's a candle. I thought that sounded neat. I'd never heard of that before. So I got that in addition to our Advent wreath. We can burn that. Then I got him new watercolors because, again, he likes having a paintbrush and having I got paper too. Somewhere I have some paper, but it's like partially used and stuff. But anyway, I got some nice watercolor paper. And if I put it up on an easel, and then he can use these nice watercolors to paint with, and then he can stand up and sort of use the broader motion. I think that's, that will help him, eventually learning to write. He's not into art at all right now. And he really rejects it because it was really emphasized on his Zoom calls for his preschool. The teacher just would spend like 20 minutes on these art projects, and he just hated it. So now he's like really resistant. And then the last thing, is this the last thing? Yeah, the last thing that I got really excited about is the French vocabulary bingo, because we are trying to learn French as well. So since his mother speaks French natively. So the whole house, as my daughter is going to Catholic U, but she's going to be virtual, but she's studying French. I want to learn French or relearn it. I did study it a long time ago. My husband studied it a long time ago. And then my 25-year-old son decided he was going to study it too. So, and then we have a French speaker in the house. So we're going to focus on French this year. So I got that. So that's my unboxing. I'm so sorry that this is such a long video. I got to learn to talk less. I wish I knew how to edit. I don't know how to edit. Anyway, happy memorial of Saint Jane de Chantal. I believe it's her memorial today. I love St. Francis de Sales, and she was a follower of St. Francis de Sales. Anyway, have a blessed day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.